we took over for the porters. Austin took Lewis on a tour of the steamer while we worked. I let the crew help with the clothing trunk. It went quickly. We were soon in the back of the little boat on our way to shore. Belle's cockatoo was screeching for his cage on her lap. "Stand by to go about," it recited, "pieces of 8. Lewis and Lloyd looked at each other in surprise and both laughed. These were the things that Long John Silver's parrot had said. Lewis stuck a finger between the bars to stroke the bird's head. It bit him. He yanked his hand back, sucking on a tiny bit of blood. "Are you all right?" Belle asked. "We're planning such a celebration for your homecoming," Lewis told her, "and a true Samoan feast." "Shark," Lloyd said. "Very funny," I said. I hadn't realized, Lloyd told Belle, that you had married such a sensitive man. "They tricked me into eating some shark meat for dinner on the equator, and I got sick," I told her. "I didn't know I was marrying into a family of such base and callous jokers." "I apologize," Lloyd said. "I didn't realize you would have such a strong reaction. I'll have to sneak something on you one of these days, like buzzard or hyena, and watch you turn green. Your mother wouldn't eat it either." "Is that true?" Lloyd asked. She very carefully pretended to eat, but I knew she wasn't. I should have realized something was up," I said. "I thought we should honor Chief Timunaku's ancestors," Fanny offered. "He was descended from a long line of sharks on his mother's side of the family." "But you shot it," Lloyd said. "It's a bit like eating something evil," I heard myself say. "I've seen what a shark can do." "I've seen buzzards," Lewis said, looking at Fanny. "He certainly has," he agreed. Lewis almost died of diphtheria on a mountain in Monterey. A farmer found him by the collection of buzzards around him. "And I certainly wouldn't want to eat them," he told Austin. "So how was the trip on the Janet Nickel?" I asked. Everyone looked away. "So you finished the big house?" Belle asked. "It's a work in progress," her mother said, "and we're completely out of the cottage, so you can have that all to yourselves. You know, we've already had famous guests, a painter, John Lafarge, and a friend of his, historian, Henry Adams," Lewis said. "Lafarge was an excellent watercolorist," Fanny said. "He's New York?" I asked. "Will Lowe knows him," Lewis said. "We met him when we were going through there." "He was up making a study of the girls at the slide waterfall," Fanny said. "I bet he was," I said. Belle glanced at me. "There's a water slide that ends in a pool. The natives go to ride it down and swim. They're usually naked." "You've made a study of it yourself?" she asked. "Just as a student of native cultures," I laughed. "The dirty secrets come out," Lewis said. He had no idea. The waterfall was a wonderful place, and I was going to go ride it myself when I got the chance. They hadn't changed a bit. They wanted to know the kings and all the other whites when they landed. I wanted some fun. I was sure that they hadn't talked to a Samoan who wasn't a king or hired help. When I came the first time, I got some wonderful pictures because I got bored with the Germans and their puppet government. Fiapio and I noticed each other. We were like a couple of shy and awkward teenagers. Her English was horrible, and I hadn't learned any Samoan yet. In Moore's store, with his help, she invited me to a picnic. He described it as a kind of Sunday brunch with the family, but it was quite a different thing when I got there. It was in secluded wood behind Apia. I was the only man. There were 3 other girls that were young like Fiapio and an older aunt type who I guessed was a chaperone. They were all dressed in brightly colored muumuus and had flowers in their hair. We ate and tried to have a conversation. They were all paying close attention, Fiapio especially. She was very beautiful. She had well-formed, full lips and thick hair that had not been dyed, and big brown eyes. She laughed at me and I was smitten. I tried to tell them about Hawaii and San Francisco, but wasn't sure they understood any of it. This wasn't family brunch. This was courting. It began to rain, ever so slightly at first, and then it grew heavier. I thought we would call it quits and run for shelter. The girls were looking worried. Then, after words to the older woman, 2 of the girls stood, pulled their dresses over their heads and neatly folded them to hand them to their aunt so they could be put away in a basket she had. The 2 naked girls gathered a leafy branch each to cover their genitals and sat back down with us. Fiapio and the remaining girl pulled off their dresses as well. They didn't want them to get ruined in the rain. I was soon surrounded by the group again, and our attempts at conversation continued as if nothing had changed. It was maddening for me. I couldn't stop glancing at Fiafio's breasts. Her areolas were quite large. I was turning beet red. I had an erection that wouldn't go away. This wasn't sexual in that way for them. They made no overtures at all, except that Fiafio understood what was happening to me and seemed to be secretly enjoying my discomfort. The native boys weren't aroused by nudity. The rest of the picnic was a blur. The rain stopped, and the girls were up and slipping on their dresses again. I could stand up without embarrassing myself. I thanked him, and we went off in separate directions. This was something Lewis would never seen, the crowd he ran.